What's the creepiest thing you've ever heard any child say? LOL. A couple hours ago, my 3-year-old very casually was like, "I'm going to be sad when this home catches fire." That was an interesting conversation. You can sleep with my teddy bear, mommy. I don't like when its eyes move. Why the beep am I reading this right before I go to sleep? Kid at pet store. We need to get a dog that can eat a lot so when you die they can eat your body. Then it'll be like you're still with me. My neighbor's 4-year-old daughter once said to me, "You're pretty. Too bad they're coming for you soon." Needless to say, I was terrified for a few days. Over a year later, nothing has happened to me. Suck it, Jennifer. I was babysitting a 3-year-old. We were playing and suddenly he pointed at a painting on the wall of a woman with her head turned away so you couldn't see her face and said, "I don't like her. She's scary." I asked why and he said, "I don't like her eyes. She has bad eyes." My niece, currently 4 years old. I'm convinced she's going to be the next Stephen King or the next Zodiac killer. Latest incident. Found her with her dolls seated all around the table. She's at the head of it, holding forth. She's got a bit of a lisp, so it's not easy to make out what she's saying when she's talking fast. I go over to ask her what they are playing. She was getting a battle plan ready on how to kill everyone in the house and take all the ice cream from the freezer. I was to be killed by her teddy bear stuffing itself down my throat. Sorry sis. I'm not staying the night. Got plans. See you later hopefully. Cute/creepy combo, but right now my 2-year-old is saying die instead of bye. The man who lives in your mirror likes to smile at me. However, when you walk in, he gets angry. Sees reflection and smiles. Tries to hug reflection and hits mirror. Cries. I was 17. But I died and now I have to start again. Excuse me, what? We asked my 5-year-old cousin who she was talking to in the den. She said with excitement I was showing Pap my dolls. He had passed that morning but we hadn't told her yet. My daughter would constantly talk of another life she had. This wasn't once or twice. This went on for years and in very specific detail. My 3-year-old daughter stood next to her newborn brother and looked at him for a while, then turned and looked at me and said, "Daddy, it's a should bury it." Well, was she right? You can't just leave us hanging. My sister was once asleep beside me while I was playing on my phone. She's a heavy sleeper and very little can wake her up. All of a sudden, she bolted upright and grabbed my arm while looking towards my window. She whispered in a panicked voice, "You can't let them in." Confused, I asked her what she was talking about. "You can't let them in," she repeated. "They don't have eyes." Then she rolled over and went back to sleep. This would be creepy enough on its own. However, my house had a similar events prior and after this. For example, my siblings refused to sleep in their room. Eventually they said it was because of the girl without eyes that lives in the closet. I myself had nightmares of a girl with black holes for eyes standing at the foot of my bed. When I saw her, she told me that I'd better wake up before you forget how. Prior to that nightmare I had felt like my blanket had been getting pulled off me repeatedly during the night. I had never told anyone about it, so it wasn't like my sister got the idea of the eyeless girl from me. Also, the window my sister had been looking at had a bad history. Often at night I'd hear scratching coming from it and my cat would stare at the window and hiss. I never saw anything there, even when I climbed out on the roof to investigate. The second I was back inside, my cat would hiss at the window again. It was overall just a very creepy series of events. You can hear them in the silence, but when you listen they notice. My little cousin. Mice maybe? Yeah, definitely mice. Gotta be. I was tucking in my 2-year-old. He said goodbye, Dad. I said, no. We say good night. He said, I know. But this time it's goodbye. Had to check on him a few times to make sure he was still there. My 4-year-old stepsister used to talk to a ghost named Basil, which was just coincidentally the name of the old man that died in the house before they moved in. Yeah. Coincidentally. My wife left the house and my daughter turned to me and said, "Mom's gone, we can do bad things." The creeped me right the FK out. I asked her, "What do you mean bad things?" The daughter replied, "We can jump on the bed and use the sharp scissors to stab things." I let her jump on the bed and use the sharp scissors for arts and crafts. I finished my taxes. You're 9. Why the hell are you doing taxes, you little creep? Little blonde girls still freak me out to this day. I had the window seat on a quick 1-hour flight. Sat next to a little blonde girl, with her mom on the aisle seat. As we're taking off, the girl points out the window and exclaims, "We go up and die?" Her mom quickly corrects her. "Yes. We go up in the sky." A few minutes later, she points again and says, "I see pain." Quick on her feet. Her mom corrects her again. "You see plane." Very good. No. Cheryl. That's not what she said and you know it. Apparently when I was a kid, I used to say when I was an adult, I did this and that. I don't remember why I was saying that, but I definitely remember I said I used to own a store when I was an adult. Another thing my dad says often was that he had an out-of-body experience where he saw me as a 2-year-old looking and giggling at him. He was trying to grab me but his hand just passed through me, where he realized he's asleep. So he woke up and went to check on me. I was still giggling and running away from him just like my dad saw. He believes I could actually see him while he was asleep. One time my husband and I went to his friend's house for a bonfire. Anyway, his son Lane was sitting on my lap. I went to get up, and he screamed, then told me to sit back down. I asked him what was wrong and he said that it was watching me from the dark corner of the house and if I got up it was going to hurt me. He pointed to it and even described what it looked like. I stayed there for 2 hours until he fell asleep, told his dad to take him, and ran to the house. Scared of the dark ever since. Apparently when I was about 3 to 5 I had an imaginary friend who was a British soldier in WWI. I would tell my parents about the things he'd tell me. One of which was about being stationed in India. My mom then pulled out a map and asked me to point out where India was and I got it right. That's not creepy, that's just cool. And do you remember anything? While changing my daughter in front of the open closet door, she kept looking around me and laughing. I asked her what was so funny. She said, "The man." To which I replied, "What man?" She then pointed at the closet and said, "The man with the snake neck." I turn around and nothing was there. I'm afraid to look into the history of my house to see if anyone hung themselves in the closet. At least she wasn't scared. When my sister was around 2 or 3 years old she ran out the door and down the street. Luckily my mom saw her and called me to chase after her. When we finally caught up with her my mom asked her why she ran out like that. My sister said this lady told me to follow her. We didn't see anyone in front of her the whole time she was running. Also, we don't know how the front door opened since she couldn't even reach the handle at the time. Creepy stuff. This one is actually a little terrifying on a more realistic note. Reminds me of some of the stories I have read. I remember one of the most popular stories I read on an AskReddit thread was something like how a father was with his daughter at a playground. His wife went into a place nearby to grab them drinks. This random woman sat down beside the father. She asked which one was his kid and they had a small chat. She then proceeds to get up and grab his kid. He asks her to stop and instead the other parents in the park ask what is going on. The strange woman proceeded to tell the people in the park she didn't know him but he was trying to take her daughter. The group of people called the cops and got violent with the father. He tried explaining the woman was about to kidnap his little girl when the wife that went to get drinks showed up at the right time to stop everything. The wife told the story on Reddit and talked about how it truly traumatized her husband to this day. People do some crazy stuff. I wish I could remember the question on the thread. My mum told me how when I was a baby in nappies and could talk quite well for my age, not sure how old I was. One day while she was changing my nappy, she said I looked her dead serious in the eye and said, "I used to do this to you when you were a little girl." She said the hairs on her neck went up and was creeped the hell out and just replied, "Oh, did you?" And I went on as a baby again like I never said a thing. She thinks maybe it was my deceased great nana appearing through me for a second. 4-year-old. Daddy, why is the little girl crying in my playroom? Me. Looks in playroom. What girl? Her. That one points in playroom. Me. See nothing, I don't know. Go play with her. Maybe she's sad. This is one of many times she has seen a little girl in the house. Can't recall hearing anything myself. But I was a little kid when I said something creepy. I heard this from 4 family members: my mother, father, and grandparents. They were having breakfast and I came into the kitchen and said how Uncle Sal and I were talking last night. This was my grandmother in question's deceased brother that died over 10 years before I was born. My grandfather turned white and almost fell out of his chair. 5 kids holding hands, formed in a circle, dancing around at night singing ashes. Ashes. We all fall down when I took my dog out. Nope. Too many Nightmare on Elm St vibes, lol. My 3 years cousin laughed in his sleep for few seconds. I was looking at him. He opened his eyes. Didn't smile. Closed his eyes. Laughed again and slept for hour. The kid didn't say it, but I've had to ask my child where the blood they drew on the walls with came from. When my son was in kindergarten, there was one kid who he'd also gone to preschool for 2 years with who smiled. Like he constantly looked pissed off about something. I was helping at their winter holiday party. Helping my son, the Never Smiles kid, and a few others with an ornament they were supposed to make and take home. Never Smiles kid pointed his blunt-tipped kitty scissors at me and says, "I'm gonna cut your eyes out." In the creepiest way possible. I was totally freaked out, but managed to at least look calm. "We're not going to cut anybody's eyes out. Not today. Okay." Never Smiles kid was constantly bugging my kid and I asked for them to be in different classes the next school year, which the school agreed to. I lost track of Never Smiles after the end of 1st grade. Because our district redrew the attendance zones and my son ended up at a different elementary school after that. I heard the next school year, so 2nd grade. Never Smiles had been caught shoving damp paper towels into one of the hand dryers and holding the button down to see if it would catch on fire. I also heard his mom had to pay for the school to have an anti-bullying assembly because of him. Another rumor. A couple years after that, so like 4th or 5th grade, said that he'd gotten kicked out and that not even the local alternative education charter school, which I'd always heard was the place to send your kid if you wanted them to grow up to be a juvenile delinquent, had even kicked him out. Our daughter was premature and dysmature, and had a problem with fluid in her ears that we unfortunately discovered a bit late. This led to her having delayed speech development. When she was about 2 years old, she started smiling and waving and saying hello to a certain point on the wall above one of our windows. This happened from time to time, over the space of about half a year. Because of her speech impediment, we could never get her to tell us who or what she was talking to. And after those problems were fixed, she couldn't remember. My 6-year son to my Sil. This will be the last face you ever see. He once also told me after I went on a long trip, I missed your skin. One time I was talking to my wife about serial killers and he chimes in, is that a job? This was something I said as a kid. Years ago the theme of ghosts came up. And my mom told the story about how my brother, he's built different and sees ghosts / is haunted often, several times saw a girl with pale skin and black hair, saying that he toughed it was me for a minute till she ran upstairs and started making him run around the house. What does little me say? My imaginary friend used to look exactly like me. It was probably her. That and other times when the cat would start meowing at random spots and I would mention he was meowing to my friend.